So we're ready to go then. Oh, I have to show you all something. So if we question whether or not I was ready, I'm ready. And those shoes, those Jordans, attest to that fact. So God bless us all. Now, also, I want to say the good news beyond the Jordans, of course, is that I can't speak that long because of my speaking impediment. So I'm not going to be the normal black preacher. I won't have you for the next half hour. I'll just get to the point, okay? Okay, so today we have a parable, one of Jesus' parables. And it's so controversial, even the commentators don't agree. It's terrible. I joke with Dominic about that. Give the bishop the hard one, okay? So, because no one agrees, I figure I can say whatever I want. And that'll be fine, so I will. So I have 3 points, and they matter in the long haul of my ministry, okay? The first, life is not fair. It isn't. Number 2, color outside of the lines. I like that. And finally, put God first. Put God first, always. Now, I'll start with the text. We're coming from Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 13. And this is a parable that comes right after the prodigal son, also known as the lost son. Now, unlike the prodigal son, it ends differently. We have the prodigal son who returns after squandering money, and he is accepted by his father lovingly. That's not true here, folks. In our gospel today, we have a manager who is accused, like the prodigal son, of squandering wealth, but no father welcomes him home. And indeed, one might say that he's the bad guy. Although he's not penitent, he is commended for his shrewdness. And the children of the light, the righteous people of God, are admonished indeed for not acting shrewdly in their age. Moreover, we are warned by Jesus to be faithful in everything, big or small, because none of us can serve 2 masters, God and wealth. And so, let's unpack this text a little bit. The manager is committed for cutting a deal, but that's not the whole story. See, he's actually commended because he went outside of lines and he acted truly. His incentive was not the present day. Indeed, he cared about future gain. And so he felt that he could do much better if he cut a deal now. People would like him. He liked that. And they'd be indebted to him. And so he thought in the future he would be rewarded by them. So what Jesus is saying today is we do not want to think about only today. We have to care about future gain. Moreover, If you spend your time being faithful in a little bit, like writing a note to a sick friend, fixing food for the poor, visiting someone who's down and out, God sees your faithfulness and will give you eternal treasure. We cannot simply focus on wealth. Focus on God and that which is eternal, like love and relationships and care. For God sees and acknowledges everything. So let's spend just a moment on what it means to be eternal. Love is eternal. How we treat someone is eternal. They never forget, and those who watch do not forget either. 1 Corinthians 13 says, y'all can probably say it for me, love never ends, love never fails. Indeed, love is timeless. So are good relationships. When you form real relationships without personal gain, they expand and bring in others and become boundless. Just look at the scores and scores and scores of people who've come out for the remembrances they have of Queen Elizabeth II. Indeed, they can testify about relationships, and guess what? I bet you can too. Then there's care. You probably can remember when you were the recipient of real care. It's priceless. Moreover, it's contagious. Those of us who have had received real care, and I'm one of them, extend that care to other people. Therefore, care replicates itself and becomes eternal. In this parable, Jesus exhorts us to focus on the eternal, not just the here and now. Focus on the future and extend that which is eternal, like love, relationships, and care. And that is what I say to all of you today, as it relates to our 3 points I'll share in a second. Number 1, life is not fair. It is not. And the more we expect life to be fair, the harder it becomes. I am sure the manager in our text today did not expect to get fired. But the rich man told him, you can't work for me and be my manager. Likewise, I came to apply to be Bishop Diocesan of the Episcopal Diocese of Chicago. I did that at the behest of my husband, Andrew McLean. When I was elected, me and Andrew drove all the way here in one sitting with all our stuff, and it was only 1 degree. But indeed, Andrew isn't here anymore. That, my friends, is unfair. And believe me, the stroke and the elongated bishop-elect status are just examples of a lifetime of disappointments. The first truth of Buddhism is about suffering. Research a good friend of mine undertook indicated that suffering is the most common thread binding all of humanity. I know you have your own stories, and indeed I care about them. But I dare say all of us have stories of suffering. So life just isn't fair. But the great thing about the truism is that once we accept it, then we're able to make inroads in this life. M. Scott Peck, the author of The Road Less Traveled, has anyone ever read it? It's wonderful. Read it if you don't have it. He says in the opening chapter, life is difficult. This is great truth. It is a great truth because once we truly see this truth, we will transcend it. The manager in our text called in the debts owed to the rich man. I am the bishop of the diocese, and here, my friends, for the long haul. And you have and will, my friends, transcend your difficulties and suffering. That is focusing on the future. No, we don't get everything we want, but we will keep going. And that is what matters today and in the future. Number 2, color outside the lines. I know you all heard that. I meant it. So in the Episcopal Church, we've been coloring inside of the lines. And how's that worked out for us? They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results. We have to stop that. Also, y'all might know, the 7 deadly words of church life, you know it. Oh, yes, you do. So, we've always done it that way. Yeah. But my mother had a different thing she used to say. She would say, Tanya, tell them. She would say, use your head for something other than a hat rack. So y'all, I say that today. Use a head, use your head. The manager in our text used his head and colored outside of the lines. That is why he was told and commended that he was rude. Likewise, I love the tradition of our Episcopal Church, our polity, and our focus on theology. But the post-COVID church must learn to color outside of the lines and to transcend difficulties and challenges. And I commend that to you today. Finally, friends, put God first. The only way we can really transcend challenges and color outside of the lines is to find a sensible solution. Sometimes that's not obvious, but when we do and put God first, we get it. Indeed, I firmly believe and have seen that God can do, quoting Ephesians 3:20, God can do infinitely more than we could ever ask or imagine. Moreover, the notion that we are in control, I know some people think they're in control. You're not. That's just an illusion. Indeed, God has control, and if I learned nothing more, I learned that. We must trust God and also trust that God will always provide. There have been people who have asked me, Paula, how do you make it? And I say, God. Only God. Only God. So together, God and all of us, we can accomplish much. If we accept the truth that life isn't fair, we will transcend all of our challenges. If we color outside of the lines, we might just find something that works for all times for us. And finally, when we put God first, we are no longer in control, and sometimes we get more than we can ask or imagine. Because, friends, you do have agency in this. You really do. And so, keep going. I'll leave you today with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., whose words capture my mantra. And that mantra is, keep going. King said, if you cannot fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. My friends, my loved ones, everyone assembled here, dear God, help us to keep moving. Amen.